Good afternoon and welcome to 5 Minutes on Faith. Today's Monday, the 11th of August of 2025. It's been about 6 weeks since I've been on here. I actually wrote this particular message on, I believe, June 28th or thereabouts, and I recorded it, and for some reason my system was buffering. I couldn't get it done. It was not good quality to release. So today when the Lord said, get back into what I put into your life as an assignment, to reach out to people, to share the word, to share 5 minutes with people on faith. I want you to know that I just feel a stirring in my heart that we all need to think about this message. And what I entitled it is, Will We Go Without Knowing? And every time the Lord asks us to do something, there's always discomfort. There's always something we have to release. There's always something we have to surrender. And so this is what I believe we need to be prepared to do in this day now, because the world is in such chaos. But in our own particular lives, even though we may not ever influence another country, we influence people in our sphere of exchange, where we're working, where we're trading, where we buy gas. Every person we come in contact, we have an opportunity to minister to them some way, either peacefully or in word or in kind deed or whatever the Lord asks us to do. But sometimes there's a challenge for us to do that. So I'm using the scripture out of Genesis 12, verses 1 and 2, where the Lord said to Abram, he said, I want you to leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, and go to a land that I will show you. So can you imagine the Lord coming and knocking on your door and saying, hey, today I'm going to totally flip your life upside down, and I'm going to take you someplace you've never been before, to a whole new land of people, and you're not taking anybody with you. That would be pretty unsettling. But the Lord went on to promise him. He said, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. So when God calls us to do something, to go without knowing, he's calling us to do something to sow into somebody's life, but it will also bring a blessing back into our life if we are faithful to the Lord. So when we are called to go out, we are called out in separation, in surrender, and in sanctification. So in Hebrews 11:8, it talks about separation. It says, it was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home, to go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. So he said, leave your home, leave your family, go to another land that I'm going to give you. And he went without knowing where he was going. The question is, are we willing to answer the call to go without knowing? We are also to go when God calls us to be surrendered. We are to completely lay down our sense of unworthiness, to release our own way of thinking. Sometimes the stinking thinking in our brains totally derails what God has for us, because we will justify it. We'll think about it, we'll talk about it, we'll justify it. And we never allow God to do exactly what he desires for our life. So the questions you need to think about when you know that God is stirring your heart to do something different is, are you willing to surrender your ignorance, where you've ignored something, or you're just not educated about something, and your resistance to what God has designed for your life? You got to ask yourself that question. Are you willing to surrender that? Will we lay down our excuses? Boy, I got to tell you, I could put 100 excuses out. Delay, delay, delay. I want to be engaged, and I'm pushing the excuses aside. I tell myself I'm too old. I don't have the credentials. My family might reject me. I don't have the money for the things that God has put in my mind's eye, my vision, to move forward, and on and on and on. But God is asking us to surrender all of that stuff. And the last area if we're going to obey and move forward in the promises of God for our lives, we have to go in sanctification. We are to go out on the assignment that God called us to accomplish a job. We must place God between our own human mind and the difficulty that we may perceive that lies ahead of us. We are also to remember this, that Jesus never rebuked the disciples for their mistakes, but he did rebuke them for not having faith. And that's a big one. I don't want to be rebuked for not having faith. What our words proclaim, what comes out of our mouth, and the actions that we achieve actually reflect, like a mirror back to us, our level of faith. So we have to think about what words are we proclaiming over ourselves, and we need to learn how to speak the words in faith of what God is calling us to do. I will do such and such. I will be speaking on stages. I will accomplish this opportunity. I will buy this piece of property. I will go on this trip. Whatever it is that God is calling us to do, we need to start proclaiming that even before it becomes reality. And our actions we need to do. Faith without works is dead. We need to constantly be moving forward. So that's why I'm back on my podcast today, because I know this is part of the action that I need to be engaged in to build my level of faith, to move forward, to be able to touch more lives. So I'm encouraging you to move forward. In James 4, 7 through 10, it says, "Humble yourself before God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up in honor." I love that. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up in honor. In this season, we are all called to very unique assignments to reflect the goodness and glory of God. I'm encouraging you to go without knowing. And regardless of how impossible we think what God is calling us to do in our own mind, don't let your mind get in your way, we must remind ourselves, according to Luke 1:37, nothing is impossible with God. So go take on the day and remember, go and obey what the Lord is calling you to do. In separation, if it requires letting go of people, closing in your boundaries, tightening your circle, surrendering to the Lord, and being sanctified and moving forward in faith. Let's not be rebuked for not having faith. Let's not allow that to happen in our lives. Go take on the day. Thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow. Bye.